There we go. Hello. Welcome back. Glad to see you guys. Our theme for this evening is change. And so I've changed up a couple of things to comply with our theme. A different backdrop, a different outfit, no vet trip shirt tonight. And so the idea being that, of course, change is inevitable. We've all experienced many changes throughout our lives, and we're going to continue to do that, because the only thing that's constant is change. And so, how do we deal with change? How do we cope with change, particularly when it's a change that we really didn't want or didn't care for or didn't anticipate? So, there are two main or primary, I guess, definitions of grief. One certainly is a loss, and the other is a change in a familiar pattern of behavior. And that's also a definition of change. So there may be excitement or anticipation, eager anticipation of an upcoming change. And at the same time, there is a loss of the old ways, the old patterns, what's familiar. And so developing a mindset to be prepared for the inevitable changes that we're going to experience and flowing into those changes as best we can. Coping is what we're ultimately talking about. So I think that'll be the direction that we stick to tonight. And so let's go ahead and get started. Just let yourself get settled in, get comfortable, sitting, reclining, just kicking back, relax. Take a few slow breaths. Give yourself permission to take this next bit of time to experience a change. But first, let me say, do not play this recording while riding in a moving vehicle, while operating equipment or machinery, or whenever engaged in an activity that requires your full attention. This session is not intended to diagnose or treat any particular medical condition. For such diagnosis and treatment, please consult with your chosen healthcare provider. And now we're going to go ahead and start off with experiencing a change in your thoughts, a change in your consciousness, if you will. So as we were beginning this session, and probably now, you're quite aware of your surroundings. You can feel the chair beneath you, the cushions, whatever the support is that's under you. You can feel the temperature of the air around you. You can feel where your hands are placed, whether they're on the arms of a chair or whether they're in your lap. If you think about it, you can feel your clothing in contact with your skin. But now, as you begin to take a few deep breaths and let your eyes gently close, can you think about what was the first vehicle you ever owned? And as you do that, it required you to take your awareness inside. And in a way, for just that brief moment, you were detached from what is here and now. And anytime you're in a reflective mode, you're changing your mental status, if you will, your conscious awareness from what is present in front of you right now to some memory, some thought, some recollection. And maybe you can even bring up that memory, that recollection, in such a way that it seems real, that you're reliving it. And you've just initiated a change. And as with all things, it begins simply with a thought. And there are many things about your experiences that you have the ability to initiate a change. The way that you experience discomfort, you can change. In fact, the way that you experience any event, you can develop a different perspective, a different point of view. If you've ever experienced in a conversation someone making an observation and you thinking, I never thought of it that way. You've just experienced a change. So let's see what we can change right now regarding your present physical experience. I wonder how relaxed you can allow yourself to become. I wonder if you can initiate an internal change to just decide to put aside the events of the day for just these next few moments and see how much comfort you can create within you. Physical comfort, mental comfort, emotional comfort. And if you're noticing right now just how comfortable you are in this moment, right now, physically and emotionally, mentally. And I wonder if you can assign a number between 0 and 10. And let's say 10 being quite awake and perhaps even agitated, and 0 being almost asleep. And whatever number you happen to assign, I wonder if you can decide to initiate a change to become even more comfortable, even more relaxed. And if you decided to do that, I wonder just exactly how you might go about creating that change. Maybe it's about the way that you breathe. Perhaps focusing on deepening those breaths, slowing down. Perhaps taking a long, slow inhale and then holding it for just a few seconds before letting it go in a long, extended exhale. Maybe it's about imagining your muscles relaxing. And you know how it feels when you make a tight fist, feeling the tension in your hands and your fingers, your forearm, and then how it feels when you release it and open that hand and just let go. So maybe it's about that releasing of the tension in every part of your body, your muscles, your organs. And I wonder if you're in your imagination, you can imagine what it would be like if you could release the tension in your mind in exactly the same way that you would open your hand to release your fist. And these are all changes. And these are all changes that most of us welcome and enjoy. And so go ahead and initiate whatever the process might be for you to be even more relaxed, even more comfortable. Peace of mind. And perhaps this may even be a good preparation for the changes to come in life. As we know, change is inevitable. And so you may mentally prepare yourself, knowing that change will indeed occur. And with this realization, perhaps you may even appreciate now even more. You may even decide to allow yourself to be in this moment, particularly the enjoyable moments. Put aside the worries and the fears. Just enjoy what is now. And when experiencing those events that you didn't ask for, that you really don't want, perhaps there are two parts of an approach that might be beneficial. Number one is accepting the reality, difficult as it may be. If it is truth, if it is what is real, then so be it. And then upon accepting, looking for the lesson. What is it to be learned here that can potentially be applied to the challenges that are yet to come? And even obtaining a desired result involves a change, a leaving behind to some degree what was in favor of your desired outcome. So you can enjoy the moment. even knowing that change will indeed occur. And I'd like to share with you a story about change. There once was a young hawk that, although he had left his birth nest a long time ago, he'd never learned to fly. Other hawks in his area were always making fun of him. He was a constant embarrassment to his parents and his siblings. In fact, they were always trying to devise ways to get him to fly. They would scold him and beg him and nudge him up into the trees to just try to get him to fly. They'd take him up on tall cliffs with plenty of breeze to hold him up and try to get him to fly. But regardless of what they did, the young hawk refused to fly. And one day at a community meeting, the subject came up yet again. Now, this was becoming more than simply a family problem. For a bird who refuses to fly is hardly a bird at all. And a hawk who refuses to fly must give up his title. For hawk is a name that's reserved for the fearless. So it was decided that a hawk who refused to fly would be banished from the community. Now, luckily, two elder carrying hawks of the community intervened in the young hawk's behalf. Let us take him with us tomorrow, they said. We'll drop him from the air and the problem will be resolved one way or another. The council agreed, knowing that the young hawk would either fly or die. So the next morning, they took the young hawk to the top of a cliff. And one elder hawk stood on each side of him. And at the same time, they flew off into the air, carrying the young hawk between them. They flew up into the air higher and higher, 100 feet, 150 feet, 200 feet. The young hawk was terrified, for he'd never been up in the air before. "What are you doing? Let me go," he screamed. And then they did. Way up in the sky, they just let go of the young hawk and flew away. However, they did stay enough to watch what he did. At first, the young hawk began to dive down toward the earth. One of the elder hawks flew by and yelled, "Spread your wings." But the young hawk was terrified and petrified, beginning to panic. The other elder hawk flew by. "Spread your wings," he yelled. And with great effort, because his fear was so intense, he slowly extended the tips of his wings. And as soon as he did, he noticed a slight breaking of the rate of his descent, a brief moment of control. And yet he was still going down, more slowly now. And he extended his wings a little more and noticed more control. Finally, he extended his wings all the way out. And for the first time, he felt the power and the peace and the confidence in being in control. He glided a little. He enjoyed sailing on the air currents. Gradually, he landed in a slow, controlled way. And then he took off again and flew around a little more. And the two elder hawks looked at each other and nodded knowingly and comfortably with great satisfaction. Change can take place as we learn to control ourselves and our thoughts. We make change happen. within the deep levels of our minds, within the cells of our bodies, within our lives. Change can take place. And even those events over which we have no control, we absolutely have control over our responses to such events. We control our thoughts. We control our responses. We control our reactions to our surroundings, our encounters, our experiences. So spread your wings and fly. You may not be able to control the wind, but you can control your sails. You may not be able to control the currents, but you can control your own wings. Accept the inevitability of change. Accept what is real. Change what you can when you can. And most often you'll discover that the change that is most effective is within you. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So take in a slow, deep, healing, cleansing breath. And when you are ready, let your eyes gently open to the change that is before you.